this exhibit, Cloth is Community, Hmong Textiles in the United States, is a traveling exhibition through Exhibits USA. It's a national traveling program of the Mid-America Arts Alliance. And this exhibit, which has been all throughout the Midwest of the United States, has never been to California, which is interesting to us here at the museum because the Central Valley of California has such a rich heritage and history of Hmong immigration to this area. The Hmong diaspora came to the Central Valley roughly in the early 1980s as a refugee community fleeing the violence of the Vietnam War and the secret war in Laos that was corollary to the war. And this exhibit here tells the story of that diaspora through the Hmong textile art that was traditional in Hmong culture in Southeast Asia. And really what we're trying to do here at the museum is show to the community the type of work and the artistic heritage of the Hmong community in this area.
And so this piece is about a wedding scene, and because these things happen chronologically, then when you see this imagery, you kind of have an idea of what time it is, right, in the year. And so this specific ritual is actually remembering about a battle that took place between two very legendary individuals and people in the Hmong culture. And so the Hmong people, we practice shamanism. And the first shaman, according to our folk tales, is a man named Yi. And so one thing that he did was he fought against a man called Shura. Shutua. And so Shutua was a bad man who actually was very greedy, and he took advantage of many people. And so Yi had to defeat him, and in defeating him had to kill him along with his wife. And so when we do this ritual, we are actually we're remembering the defeat of these two individuals, and remembering the defeat, honoring them, but also remembering that we defeated them. And so it's sort of something that every clan will do for themselves. And you can see the procession. The tree is symbolic, and then the chicken represents the wife that was sacrificed. And so generally a chicken will be sacrificed, and then we all have to walk through the tree. Generally we create sort of like a structure here, and the family walks through, and it's also a form of remembrance, a form of protection in some ways. You see a shaman here, so he's calling in the soul, and then people are generally making their way over here to the ball tossing game, which is something that only happens during our New Year celebration. So this happens in the 8th or 9th month. And then generally we harvest our fields, and then it's time for New Year's to celebrate. And the New Year's celebration is a time for younger people to meet potential husbands and wives and partners. And so you see here that this woman is actually being taken to this man's home, and she looks a little bit unhappy here, but here she looks quite happy. So, in long time past, it was very proper for women to be a little bit more on the reserved side. Even if they were very interested in a man, then they would not let them know. And so it's kind of like this game where she might not seem interested in going, although she's very happy to go. So that might be the situation here now. But here you can see that they've come to his home, and so again the chicken is here sort of calling in her spirit, because when she gets married, then she's going to go leave her family spiritually and ancestrally and join his family. And so that's the procession that's happening here. Chickens are associated with souls and ritual, and so generally they're sacrificed. And here you can see the chicken and egg here calling in the soul, and the wedding is happening, and so they've also slaughtered a pig for the feast, and the wife and the husband are here, and family and relatives are coming to wish them well with food on the table. I don't have any string today on my own hands, but they're tying strings on their wrist as a blessing for their new life and their new future. And Now her family is sending them off. So weddings happen in two places, at a man's home and at a wife's home. And so here her family is probably sending her off back to his home. This piece right here is an animal story cloth. And so there are a variety of story cloths. Generally there are historical story cloths to talk about actual historical things that have happened. There's also included in that is folktale story cloths to talk about folk tales. And then there are everyday life story cloths. So the one we just recently saw and this one. And this is the depiction of a forest or a jungle, and right here is one tree within that forest and jungle, and you can see all of the beautiful animals inside of the forest. And so their lives revolve around this tree. And you can see that on this tree there are monkeys, there are birds, and they're all surviving and living off of this tree and the fruits and the flowers that grow on this tree. So this tree represents life in many ways. And there's life on the trees and there's life on the ground too. And so the monkeys and the birds, they live in the tree. But here on the bottom, there's squirrels and deers who live off of the fruits that fall off the tree, who live off of leaves, who live off of grass. And so this is a depiction of the life around you. And this is a story cloth. It's Isha Danning sa Hmong Luning. So that means it's a story cloth about Hmong life, everyday life, and lifeways and pathways, really. How we say it is Hmong Luning Ku Na Ku Hao. So pretty much how we live, to eat and to drink on a daily basis. And so these are generally the things that you would find a Hmong person doing in traditional life. Here they are processing rice, and so here they might be grounding rice or corn, and here they are pounding the rice. This is a machine, you step on it and then it goes up and down and it pounds the rice hulls off of the rice, and then you can take the clean rice and put it aside, and then if you need to remove more, then it's in this basket and you can kind of shake it so that the hulls fall apart. So really you do this first after you harvest rice, and then over here if you need to grind it or make it smaller in any way, rice or corn, then you would push this, and see this individual here is putting rice or corn in here and she's pushing it, and this is two structures. So it's a bottom rock and a top rock, and the top rock turns and churns pretty much, and then it'll come out, and then they would take that to feed the pigs or feed the chickens. And here you see them taking a horse. These are the people in the front, these are the people in the back. And so they're taking a horse with them, probably to the farmlands, because you don't generally farm next to your village. You live in a village and then your farm is like a mile, 2 miles out. So you'll have to make a trek there. And here you see them harvesting rice and then harvesting corn, and so it's a full circle. This is what Hmong life really revolved around, was agriculture, and so it's a full circle. Their daily life, the things they do on a daily basis, is also tied to what feeds them and how they make a living. So this here is a funeral jacket or a death jacket. So in life, you have both clothes that you wear in life and then clothes that you wear in death. And so this jacket, death jackets are generally very, very large, and they're much longer. So among the Hmong in Laos, who are now the Hmong in America, we wear, shorter jackets, both men and women. And that's because in Laos it's very hot, and so there isn't a need to have jackets that are this big. But we're from areas in the high mountains in southern China, in central China, where it actually is very cold. And so if you visit some of the Hmong groups that still live there, they will still wear very big jackets like this. So we call this Luchal Lao, which means old jacket, meaning old, meaning death, but also old meaning jacket that the elders wear. So even for elders, they had elders, right? And so their elders, if they were not from Laos, if they were still living in Vietnam or southern China, would wear jackets like this. And so it's a remembrance of the fact that where we came from, we used to wear jackets like this. It's a jacket of the past. So there are many reasons why we don't wear jackets like this on a daily basis, you know, climate. Also, we were very poor, so it took a lot more resources to create such a big jacket like this. So these jackets are very precious, and they would be saved just to be worn during death, or maybe for special occasions if you have a special occasion. But it's a very grand jacket. And so it's also believed, you know, that in the afterlife you travel to meet your ancestors, and when you go, you want to look your best, but you also want to be wearing something that they can recognize. And so if you wear something that they wore, then they will know that you are a part of their family or a part of their clan.